every one of these platforms costs money to companies that to get out there. You don't to get people where they can punch the button. So everybody's gone to Facebook, and they've also gone to cell phones. So folks, we're the ones. I'm the one, at least, on the back side, in the back door, in the C panel, or all the websites. We actually do create domains out there and hosting, and we want our own servers, and we need our own servers. But right now we're shared host out there in a lot of places. So, but we've got a WordPress package. But yeah, we've got numbers everywhere. But I think Ad told me over 12 million or something. Mad's more one of those kind of people that keeps up with the numbers for him and Mike.
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. Yeah. I was going to add
your website's got her website's got a counter on it, and it's had over 12 million hits since it started.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to get in on now, I've had people contact me, and particularly when we were talking about our secret space program, and you having me as the Allied commander, et cetera.
Yes.
And some of it is for fun, so to speak. And I was told you're going to lose your credibility if you start playing games and stuff. And at the time, I kind of went, well, yeah, I can see that might be a problem. But since then, I got to looking at some of the records. Buzz Aldrin, he was on Saturday Night Live TV, and they played games and made fictitious. Oh, my wife said, and he made a lot of money doing that. So I don't think that we're going to lose credibility when we have I have documented proof on everything that I've done and been involved with, and we're going to be coming up with a whole lot more of direct contact information here for the whole world, and I don't see us getting a head. I do see us getting a head start and a jump on the fact of who's going to be communicating with who's going to be communicating with their stressors. They've tried for decades. I mean, back in the 40s and even earlier, to make direct contact with governments. And, of course, governments, in panic of losing control of the populations, have tried to keep, anyone that would say, oh, well, there's such a thing as extraterrestrials. And the people say, well, if you think there are ETs out there, we're the only intelligent beings in the whole universe of space, everywhere, not just the galaxy. Now they're finding out that they're grossly wrong. And that even with some of the telescopes that we put in Earth orbit and Skylab have been able to make pictures and things of moons and or planets going in other solar systems and other galaxies. So anyone who seems to think that God only created one Earth and one intelligent beings and the whole vast of all the universe, I think they are limiting the belief of any true deity. And so that's where we are now, and I don't consider it playing too much. Sure, we could get a little off to the side, but I think if Buzz Aldrin kind of set the deal, and even Neil and the others, they were always quite frequently, that Neil got away from being on any public programs because he was a bit of a recluse. But most of the guys that I dealt with, they had no problem with coming in and talking about what they saw in space and how it felt to go in zero gravity. And I've done most of those things myself, but not Earth orbit I'll go ahead and say it this way. If the hypnotic regression sessions that Dr. Sasha Leffen has conducted on me, some of the missing time in my life here, there's evidence that proves that I have been off planet. I have been involved in other things, and I think perhaps that's one of the reasons you chose to make me your Allied Fleet commander. And I promise to try to do my best. And the rest of it, we're all going to try to work this together. So,
yes, educational entertainment. Well,
Amen.
think about it. You came on the show when we were talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind and how it really affected me. I had to go to the hospital and breathe in a brown bag, and Ahmad was on a ship in the Navy watching it because he was in part of the test to see how people responded to the movie before they even put it out. So he watched it before it was released in 1977. So all of this is intertwined, and we've got an Ace Folklife, we've got the Comic-Con, and then at this Alien Expo, people are going to be dressing up in costumes because people like to role play, even though it's not October and Halloween. So we have Comic-Con, we have role play, we have our superheroes, we have our comic books that are vendors. So, you know, we mix it all together now. We mix our psychics, our tarot readers, our crystal sellers, and our speakers. And I did this in '93 at the Alien Expo, and I was next to Willie Nelson's. So I had products from Spain and Cork, and he had hemp from right here in America. So I'm a singer, but I know when I have to go play the Cosmos Ambassador. And it's okay because it helps. It's called educational entertainment. And to tell you the truth, stuff like this that's scientific can be so boring to kids. So we're making it fun, entertaining, and, you know, historically okay. It's a way to get the word out, right? So, Kimberly, how do you feel about that? You know, the expos are mixing all the different genres together. We just have to make sure that people know the difference, you know. Some of it's ancient history. She knows. Kimberly, you know what I'm talking about? You've seen how they took let's like taking different books in a bookstore. Kimberly, can you weigh in on that?
Yeah. I've been to a Comic-Con before, and yeah, it's very interesting. And with all the vendors and that, there's a mix of everything, just like what you're talking about right now. And with me being a abductee as well, I know that the importance is out there. There may be some fun involved, but when it comes down to it, there's a lot of reality as well.
Right. So
we
have
seems to be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that seems. It seems to be the concern that the people that know what all I've been involved in and actually done is they're concerned about credibility. Well, I don't see, it could be carried to extreme. So long as we're sticking with events and documentation and proof, and being picking up the responsibility of Allied Fleet Commander, that doesn't bother me much. Somebody's got to do the job, and I guess if I'm here, I'll do the best I can. And of course, I'm asking for all the help that I can get. But we're in a new era. And the era is of truth and of contact, that we're not the only intelligent beings in the whole vast universe. It'd be insane to think we are. And now to find out that we're actually pretty far behind, and it's going to take direct contact in public now. And that's why I was talking earlier a little bit about governments having to try to maintain their own control of their people. But when you've got it set up to where we can have Comic-Cons, and you were talking about how people may be in costumes and things like that. Well, I guess me wearing my NASA flight suit walking around will fit right in with some of them in their alien costumes. Does that sound about right to you there, TJ?
Yes, and I think that this is very much in my line of marketing and promotion, because I'm very much about bringing out the STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. And you resemble all of that. And your wife, even being a civil servant, we're bringing together our veterans. And a lot of our veterans are volunteering now, just like they used to. I used to run a lot of our veterans in the Veterans Administration, and I even worked in the veterans as a hospital corpsman in Great Lakes. I also worked at the Military Regional Finance Center. But, you know, we liked having fundraisers, and we would do poker runs, and we did them in Kentucky, too, with our veterans. So it was any way to have, from our reserve centers, educational entertainment and fundraisers for, like, Toys for the Tots with Marines. I've been involved with that. And I've been involved with the Alien Expo and the Eco Expo and the Whole Life Expo. And here we've done New Horizons Expo, and we did Stargate to the Cosmos Expo. And you've got that one coming up probably again in 2020 right there. You were a plank owner of that. Right. I was for 7 years. I put into marketing that. So, yeah, there's
well,
a lot that goes into these, and we will be marketing anime, and I love Marvel Comics, and God bless Stan Lee because he followed me writing for the UFO Association, and, Kevin Smith was, I believe, the first radio show I'd ever been on, and several people had me come on theirs after that, but I really didn't want to, but I got where I could do that, and then I saw Travis Walton out there, and actually, Calvin Parker's been doing quite a few. So those that have well-known names in the alien ET UFO community as speakers. So Ken has been working. Now tell Kimberly, if you don't mind, about your Hoagland story, so you'll be all ramped up for tomorrow, how you got from the Hoagland to Washington, D.C., because we have the ACO press now. And the ACO News Press for Journalists and the ACIR, Allied Contact Intergalactic Relations, and we can write about cosmology. And I have a big, strong ecology group down here with Ed Comarak. Ecology, I don't know if a lot of you people know that, but that's one of the main ingredients of exopolitics. But real quick, you've got about 18 minutes left, Ken. Tell us about your experience with how Richard wanted your files, and then he got you into the thing that Dr. Greer uses and David Wilcock. Go ahead.
Right. Well, David came in much later in there, but back in 2014, when I was still with the Boeing company, and I was at home, I got a call from one of my fellow flight instructors, and we had been sending back in these days before cell phones and all. We would send things through inter-office mail back and forth, and we were keeping track of events and things and going on. The guys contacted me, said, "Hey, you're out of flight. You're not flying." So he says, "You're available. Why don't you go down to this conference that's going on? Richard C. Hoagland's going to be there, and tell him about some of the stuff that you've got and what's going on." Well, it was great. I took off and drove downtown in Seattle and walked into the desk, and I'm trying to get a ticket. And I said, "Oh, and here's a letter of introduction for Mr. Hoagland, et cetera." And in it, I told him who I was and what I'd done at NASA and about the archive and the documents that I had. And the person reading it, their eyes got huge because she said, "Oh my God, you're who we've been looking for." And I'm thinking, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." And so she said, "Don't move, stay right where you're at." And she, a couple of minutes later, Mr. Hoagland came out, and he said, "You really did this?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Good. Come in, sit on the front row. We're going to talk afterwards." The next day, he showed up at my house with about 4 or 5 other helpers, and I had pulled out of a big vault safe that I had been keeping everything in. And that's for real. I had a double-door safe that I kept documents and pictures and records and things in. Anyway, they would look at these pictures and they say, "Oh my God, look at the number." They were saying, look at this. And I hadn't paid that much. I had just kept things to save them and protect them because I was so busy raising a family and getting grandkids and all this going on that they were just being saved. And they started showing me these alien bases on the backside of the moon and things that I hadn't even paid that much attention to. So, and he says, "We're having a conference at Washington, D.C. next week." He said, "I want you to be able to go and have you go before the National Press Club and bring all of this stuff forward." He says, "Otherwise, you're a sitting duck and you could get bumped off." Well, I didn't think I wanted to get bumped off, and neither did my wife. So I went to Washington, D.C. and up before the International Press Club, worldwide, and exposed a lot of the documents and records and what all I had saved. Now, one of the guys that I had worked with back during the beginning of the Skylab was James Oberg, and he was a civilian. I think he was attached to the Air Force. Got him as high as a captain, but he was there in the same building 7 with the astronauts, and where I had my office on the 2nd floor. This was quite a deal because I was later on I was invited to go to different places around the world, but one particularly in India, and I was at India giving lectures to universities and talks and showing them documents and records, and because India was developing quite a manned space program for the Minutemen, so they were getting advanced. They wanted me to talk to the youth and encourage them. Well, what happened was I came back to the Earth, back to Albuquerque area to give a lecture and a talk out in Arizona.